G'day, I'm Jack Bybee. I grew up under apartheid in the Western Cape of South Africa. I came to this country in 1982 in search of three concepts: the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment. I'm a firm believer in the mantra, to know who you are, you must first know who you are not. Or, as is pertinent to this issue, you will only value the freedoms you have when you no longer have them. So you think I'm being flippant, do you? Bear with me. Circa 1962, before leaving for a day at high school, I walk into breakfast with my family. My dad slams down the Cape Times, the morning paper, on the table. Headlines read, "Anti-Communism Terrorism Act passed." Says my dad, "From now on, when you go to school, keep your mouth shut. Keep your opinions to yourself. If you want to complain about apartheid, do so in private, in the mountains." That was when, much like the Patriot Act year in the United States, South Africa lost its freedom. To this day, I write freedom with an uppercase F. One evening, while sitting in my parents' study in my hometown, I was tuned to the Voice of America. We could not believe the propaganda from South Africa. I heard Jack Kennedy's famous speech, "And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man." As then one of those fellow citizens of the world, I mumbled out loud, half in jest, half in tragic hope, "Oh, Mr. President, if only I was free, I would do for America." In 1982, at 07:22 in the morning on August 22nd, I touched freedom in the form of the hot cement of the runway at JFK. In front of me, the tail of an LL 747 was quivering with excitement of taking off. Behind me, above Apartheid Air, as we then called South African Airways, the Air France Concorde was reaching for the stratosphere. What a welcome to freedom. I came, the typical immigrant, rucksack on my back, a suitcase in each hand, $750 in my pocket. But I was free. I came in search of President Kennedy's Camelot. I'm still searching. As an artist and a writer, I came in quest of three concepts: the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, items worth slightly more than the solid gold pavement that immigrants apparently get promised. Mind you, with the price of gold these days and the current occupant of the White House doing everything he can to destroy the very concepts I came for, I'm not sure those solid gold pavements might not have been a better deal. But that was then. This is now. This morning I reread my journal entry of August the 22nd, 2007, my 25th anniversary of freedom. Why do I choke up now, as I did then, walking across the runway at JFK to make my first purchase in this country, an uncensored New York Times? Why do I choke up now as I write this text? In 1994, I sat glued to CNN. I see people, thousands and thousands of people, forming long lines, up hills, down dales, along stony country paths that normally lead to streams for water. People queuing for days and days in sunshine and in rain, for what was, for the vast majority of the population of South Africa, the opportunity of a lifetime, the privilege to cast their vote at the ballot box for the very first time in South Africa. And that raging civil war that South Africans were promised by the apartheid regime, if one man, one vote ever came about. Now, because of courage, daring, and the craving for peace on all sides, the experiment known as the Reconciliation Committee, there is a raging peace in Southern Africa. Can the US not learn from South Africa and other countries who negotiate instead of dropping bombs? Or are we too arrogant, too proud to sit down at the negotiating table, too immature to say, we'll take a chance? It might not make money the way wars do, but it could create peace. If that wonderful man, Jimmy Carter, could negotiate peace with warring factions, if Nelson Mandela and P.W. Botha could do the same for South Africa, why can't present-day America? So, America, you just can't wait at the polls more than 5 minutes. Can't take the time to put the stamp on the vote-by-mail form. Wait until you no longer have the freedom of choice. Wait until you remember the words, "You only value what you have when you no longer have it." Then, to return to the status quo takes a titanic struggle. What an absolute disgrace that we now use the words United States of America and torture in the same sentence. Yeah, right. Give me your tired, your hungry, those yearning to be tortured. What truly scares me is something apparent to anyone who has lived abroad for a while, especially, if you'll pardon my arrogance, in the lesser developed countries. If it occurs in the US, then it must be right, or if not right, at least permissible. For instance, Zimbabwe recently instituted telephone eavesdropping. There are reportedly other countries using torture. Why? Well, if Americans can do it, why can't we? The Geneva Convention notwithstanding, of course. Will you allow a thief, a deceiver, a murderer free rein in your neighborhood, let alone help to pay the salary? I won't. That is why I'm encouraging those that hold so-called power in Congress that impeachment is not off the table. Vox populi, vox Deus. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Remember that, Madam Speaker Pelosi. Remember that, Honourable Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Remember that. The current occupant in the White House needs to answer for his misdeeds, including torture, censorship, and the abuse of civil liberties, amongst others. No, no, and no again. I will not accept in the interest of the nation. That is old hat to me. Adolf Hitler used it. John Foster of the Apartheid regime used it. Now it's the turn of the current occupant of the White House. In the interest of the nation is a blanket excuse for a police state. I know. Neocon state, Americans love it or leave it. No. I say, Americans, change it or lose it. And while we're on the subject of neocons, just remember who supported the apartheid regime. Here's a clue. It was not Democrats. Wake up, America, or wake up to the loss of your civil liberties the way I did. I'm Jack Bybee. Thank you for listening. This is my comment.